Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ritik Shukla, and today we are diving into an exciting project that combines programming and data extraction. We will be building a web scraper that can navigate and scrape data from working.com and save the output in JSON format. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned programmer, this tutorial will guide you through each step, so let's get started. So here's what we will cover in this video. First, we will start by exploring the layout and elements of Booking.com to understand what we need to scrape. Next, we will set up our virtual environment to keep our project dependencies organized. And then we will create our first web scraper using Scrapy. And then I'll show you how to specify and fill up the forms like search bars and search on the basis of some keywords. And after that, since Booking.com uses dynamic content, we will employ Selenium to handle infinite scrolling. Once we have got our pages, we will dive into extracting the specific details. Finally, we will store our scraped data into a JSON file. Now, before we dive into coding, make sure you have Python installed on your machine. If not, no worries. I have got a link in description on how to get that set up. Now let's jump right into it by understanding the structure of the website we will be scraping. Ready? Let's go. Alright guys, so in this section of the video, we are going to take a look at the site booking.com and try to understand what steps we need to take to reach the page from where we can scrape the details about the hotels that are listed for a particular location and for a particular duration. So let's get into it. Alright, we can see that we are getting a pop-up at the very starting, and once we close it, we are asked to fill the destination and check-in and check-out date, and we get two adults, zero children, and one room option as default. Let's just enter the check-in date. Once we click in check-in date, we can see that the checkout date will be selected on its own. You can see that there are 859 properties found here. So let's try to scroll down. Okay, so let's take a look at the scroll here. You will notice that once we are about to reach the bottom of the page, it gets scrolled up. This indicates this page is an infinite scrolling page, and we can keep on scrolling. Alright, so we are also getting up a load more results button here after some 2 or 3 scrollings. Then we can scroll down. Okay, so for us to scrape these details, what we need to do from the starting is that uh, first enter the first land on the home page, close the pop-up, enter the destination, enter the check-in date, and click the search button. Then we will get these hotels listed, and we then need to scroll the pages dynamically, and we can use the Selenium for that. And once all the pages are loaded, we can scrape these cards, hotel cards, for the hotel name, hotels ratings, number of reviews, and the rating number, the price of the hotel, and we can also get the URL of the hotel that will also give us some location of the hotel on a map. Or so that will be it for this section, and next we will take a look on how to create a virtual environment for your projects. Alright guys, so in this section of the video, we are going to create a virtual environment for this project. And why do we need a virtual environment? Because it helps keeps the Python dependencies organized, and prevents the potential conflicts that may be arise due to the installed packages and the system tools. So let's open our terminal here. So I'm using Ubuntu terminal here, but you can use Git Bash or any other terminal you like. So let's start by installing the virtual environment package. So I already have the virtual environment package, so I can directly start creating the environment. So the command would be -m. Then we need to specify the operation, that is vn. We want to create a virtual environment, and then we need to name the folder, and I'm going to name it .vn -m. Python 3 we need to specify. Alright, so our virtual environment is created, and now we need to activate it so that all the uh, packages that from now on we are going to install will be installed in this folder here, v.vn. So to activate the virtual environment, we have the command source, and then we need to specify the activate script, that is in the v.vn, and then activate. Alright, so now that our virtual environment is activated, we can see that we are we have a .vn mark here. So if you are on a Windows terminal, this command won't work. For Windows, the command is, the command is same, but the location of the activate script is different. The location will be source.vn as it is, and instead of bin, we are going to use scripts folder slash. This will be the command for Windows, and if you are on a Linux or a Mac, the previous command, that is this one, will activate the environment. Alright guys, so in this section we are going to take a look on how to create your first Scrapy spider. So for that we first need to install the Scrapy library. Let's do that first. Alright, so now that the Scrapy library has been installed, we can start with the command Scrapy start project to create our first Scrapy project, and we're going to name the project booking. So here you can see that we have got a booking folder created here, and in that we have got again a booking folder and a scrapy.cfg file. In the booking here we have got a spiders folder, an init file, items, middleware, pipeline, and settings. So we're gonna take a look at items, middleware, and pipelines uh, in the later sections of these videos. First, we are gonna create a basic spider. So for that, let's just cd into the spiders folder. Cd booking, again booking, and then spider. Alright. So let's create our first spider using the command scrapy gen spider, and we need to provide a name to this spider. So I'm going to name it booking spider. underscore, and after that we need to provide a URL for it to scrape. So that would be www.booking.com. So we can just provide www.example.com here or any other URL. And that does not matter for some projects, but this is a good habit to just use the original URL that you are going to scrape. So you can see that in the spiders folder we have got a booking spider.py file here. So let's open it. You can see that here we have got a Scrapy, a module imported, and the name of the spider is booking spider. The allowed domains are the domain that we provided here in this command. Alright guys, so now that we have our basic Scrapy spider in place, we will now take a look on how to load these heavily rendered JS websites using Selenium, and for that we are going to use the middlewares here. So what is a middleware? So to understand middleware, I think it would be better to first understand how the data flows inside a Scrapy spider, and for that let's see what is the architecture of a Scrapy spider looks like. So this here is the architecture of a basic Scrapy spider, and the most important component of all these is the engine here. Why is it so? Because all the data flow in a Scrapy spider is controlled by this engine. So what it does is when we run a Scrapy spider, the initial request will be sent by the spider to the engine, and the engine will send forward these requests to the scheduler. Now the scheduler's task here is to queue those requests and ask for any other request if spider has any. And these queued requests will be sent to the engine, and the engine will pass this request to the downloader via downloader middleware here. So the downloader's task is to download these web pages from the internet and send back to the engine in the form of response web pages. And the engine will send these web pages to the spider via spider middleware, and at this point we will be able to scrape the desired details from those web pages, and either we can yield those requests from right here this point, or we can send those requests back to the engine, and the engine will pass those request items to the item pipeline. Now the item pipelines is used if we want to send those scrape details to a database, or we want to store it in some particular format, all those work is done here in these item pipelines. So to understand, that is how the data flows inside a Scrapy spider. Now to understand middlewares, you can actually, I will link this page in the description, and you can read all about it. And to understand the middlewares, we will take a look why the middlewares is used. So yeah, download a middlewares. So uses of a middleware, if you need to do one of the following. So process a request just before it is sent to the downloader. Change received response before passing it to the spider. Send a new request instead of passing received response to a spider. Actually, we are going to use this the middleware for this purpose here. And other things that we can do is pass response to the spider without fetching a web page, and silently drop some requests. Alright, so now that we have a better understanding about Scrapy's architecture and how data flows inside a Scrapy spider, now we can move on to the programming section. So let me just open my middlewares.py, and here you can see that we have some pre-built middlewares. One of them is a spider middleware named booking spider middleware, and another is downloader middleware, booking downloader middleware. So we can just use these middlewares, or we have an option to create our custom middleware. So for this project I'm going to create a custom middleware that will be capable of loading JS rendered pages using Selenium. So let me just code it first, and then I'll explain it to you guys step by step. So let's Let me just go. So I have completed this data filling part. So let's give it a test run and then we will review the code. So Scrapy started correctly. Browser has been opened. Okay, we are waiting for the pop-up and we didn't get the pop-up, so we will just start filling the details. We entered Jaipur. Alright, this is a problem here. Let's do one thing. Remove this pause time. Put this into a trials block. And if it fails, that means that the pop-up has appeared. Otherwise, it won't fail. So once the pop-up has been appear, we can run this code again in the except block. So let's try it again. Hmm. We get a pop-up. We closed it. We entered the details and we entered the check-in date and we click the search button. We have got the checkout date on its own and we have all the details of the page. Alright. So the code works correctly and now it's time for the explanation. So what I did here is I created this Selenium middleware class that is our middleware, and in this init function I have first created our driver and it will be launching our Chrome, and I created a wait function here, and it is a inbuilt function that comes with Selenium, and what it does is we can use it to wait for certain condition, and we can define the number of seconds that we wanted to wait. So here I have uh, put 15 seconds as a wait time, and I also uh, created a pause time that we can use with time.sleep. After this, we have the process request function, which is a inbuilt function that comes with a Scrapy spider itself. So why do we need this process request function? So this function is basically used to handle those requests that are sent by the engine to the downloader, and we can either drop these requests and send our own. So here that's what I did. I called the driver to get this web page, that is the bookings.com's home page, and after that this here try and accept block is the main code. So first what we did is close the pop-up with a self-made function. I'll explain it to you later. And then I provided a time gap with the pause time that I defined here. And after this we filled the details. And why did I put it in a try and accept block is because when I was trying to run this spider, what was happening is that The spider was opening the browser correctly, but the pop-up won't load until I was reaching the check-in date or checkout date. So after putting this in try and accept block, what will happen is if the pop-up is loaded in the given time, that is in 15 seconds, it will close the pop-up. If not, the program will throw an error and we will enter the accept block. And in the accept block, we will again run the close pop-up function. So at this time, the pop-up is already loaded, right? So we are definitely going to close this pop-up this time, and then we can continue the function as it is. So let's see these functions here. So in this function, first we made the driver to wait until an expected condition, that is presence of element located. And what element is this? This is the pop-ups cross button. So let me just show you. When we enter, when we reach the home page, so we will get this pop-up, and if we inspect it, you can see that if I inspect this cross button, uh, yeah, we have a button element here, and it has an attribute aria label dismiss sign in info. So I am using this as my identifier for this button to be clicked, and once this button has been loaded, I will get a hold of this using the Selenium's WebDriver, and then we will close this pop-up by clicking on it. Pop-up dot close, pop-up close dot click will click that X mark button. If by chance it happens that the pop-up did not appear, so what will happen is it will throw an exception, and we will catch this exception in this except block, and we will just print the exception, and we will move on to the next step without crashing our entire code. So let's take a look at the next, that is field details section. In this section, after closing this pop-up, we need to get a hold of this destination input field. So when we inspect it, we can see that this is an input element with an attribute name equals ss. So that's what I used here to get a hold of this. So here is a dest variable, and we are using input and name equals ss as the CSS selector to get a hold of that input field. And once I have that input field, I'm using Selenium's inbuilt function send keys to send the name of the destination. I'm using Jaipur here. You can use whatever you want. And then keys dot enter to click the enter button from the keyboard after entering Jaipur. So if you take a look here, once we enter Jaipur here, you can see that this date picker opened automatically. We don't need to open it by clicking here. So that's what I did here. So in this try and accept block, I waited until the accept presence of element is located. And what element are we trying to wait for? Search box date picker container. So if we inspect it here, yeah. So take a look here. This whole date picker section is given in this div element with an attribute data test ID, and its value is search box date picker calendar. So I'm waiting for this element to be loaded, and once it is loaded, I will assign my check-in date. That I will find the check-in date with using the Selenium driver using CSS selector. And if we take a look at any other dates, let's take a look at this one. You will see that this span element has a data date element that has an exact date that we want, and other than that, we have array label element that also can be used to get a hold of any date we want. So I used array label attribute here. You can, if you want, you can use the data date attribute. So for this to for this to work, I needed today's date. So I used date.today and formatted in the array labels format. That is, first we need the date and then the name of the month and then the full year. And then once I have this today's date, I am going to uh, get a hold of this check-in whose CSS matches this span with an attribute array label equals today's date. And then we can click that check-in date, and as we have seen before, the checkout date gets selected on its own. And after this, we need to click on this search button here. Yeah, this search button needs to be selected. So again, we just use the Selenium's WebDriver to get a hold of this button with a type equals submit attribute, and then just clicked it. So if you notice, I have used a lot of time.sleep here. So what was the need of this? So I use it because we need to make sure that every process that we are trying to perform in this Selenium middleware is separated with some time gap. Why? Because if we try to close the pop-up before it is even loaded or it is even interactable, we will get an error. So that is the need of this time.sleep after every function. So I think it will be clear to you by now that how to get hold of these input elements and fill the details, and how to interact with date picker and search for the uh, given details. And now in the next section, we will take a look on how to scroll these Ajax pages, that is automatically loading pages after we scroll to the bottom. Alright, so let's see you guys in the next section. Alright guys, so in this section of the video, we are going to take a look on how to scroll these Ajax pages. And I have already coded the scrolling part, and let me just copy paste it here and then I'll explain it to you guys how it works. Alright, so until now we have seen how to fill the details, and after filling the details we are landing on the uh, page where we are getting the list of all the hotels listed on the bookings.com site. So to scroll to the bottom of page is, first we need to make sure that all the elements are loaded correctly. So for that, I am making sure that the uh, this heading is loaded correctly, because it will be printed at the very end once all the 1001 all the properties are found, right? And for that I am using its CSS selector h1 and the attribute RLive equals assertive to get a hold of this heading. And once this is present, and once its presence is located on the screen, we need to calculate the current scroll height of the body. So scroll height is defined as how much data we can fit into a screen without the need of this scroll bar. Alright, so once we calculate the current scroll height, we execute this JavaScript in a loop until we reach to the very bottom of the page. So for that, after scrolling it one time, we calculate the scroll height again, and so we run this loop again and again until the new scroll height that is calculated just now and the previous scroll height that was calculated are equal. We break out of this while loop, and in between, if we get hold of an span element with this class, we need to click on a load button. And why we need to do this is, if you remember, we had a load more results button that needs to be clicked to load more results, right? So if we check the inspect this element, we can see that this is actually a span element with this class. So once this span element is located, we need to get a hold of this button with type equals button. So we need to get a hold of this and click it. And why we need to put it in a try and accept block is because in the initial scrolling, we actually need to scroll 3 to 4 times to reach this load more results button. And so it will just throw an exception because the element is not loaded because we are in the middle of the page. So in that case, it will just throw an exception. We will catch it in this no such except element exception, print it, and move on with the scrolling part. So I hope you understand the scrolling section now, and let's give it a trial run. And if it has any errors, we will take a look on them. We load the results. Okay, so what might be happening here is that we might not be able to get a hold of this button because there might be some other button present on this whole page with the same CSS selector type equals button. So what we can do here is we can be a little more specific about that by providing all these classes as the CSS selector. So we can use button, and instead of this type equals button, we can specify all these classes. Let's try to run it again. Alright, we close the pop-up. It entered the check-in date correctly. Search the properties. We scroll to the bottom of the page, and yeah, we click the load more results button. So this works fine. And now we need to, let me just crash this program, and yeah, alright. So for last, what we need to do is, after scrolling to the bottom of the page in the process request function, this function scrolls the page to the bottom, and after this, when all the details are loaded, we need to get a hold of the body using driver's page source, and we need to use HTML response. So it is a Scrapy function. Let me just import it. HTTP HTML response. So we get a hold of the page source of the driver, and then we return it as an HTML response to the spider, and we can catch it in this parse function with this attribute response. So in the next section, we'll take a look on how to get a hold of this response file and scrape the details of all the listed hotels. So see you guys in the next section. Welcome back, guys. So in this section of the video, we are going to take a look on how to scrape the HTML response that we just returned in the previous section, and get hold of this in the booking spider file here. And let me just open it in the browser. And so in this section, we will try to get hold of all the these property cards, and in all of the all of these cards, we will try to get hold of the name here, this review remarks word, and the number of reviews and the price per night. So let's get on to it. First, let's get hold of all the property cards. So for that, first let me just code it and then I'll explain it to you later. Alright, so what we've done is we are getting the hold of the HTML response through this response attribute here, and we are trying to get hold of all the property cards with its CSS. Let me just show it to you. First, we try to get hold of all these property cards with, let me just inspect it. And here you can take a look. This div has a data test ID attribute with property card container, and this contains two more divs, one for this image section, second one for all the detail section. So we are only interested in the detail section. That's why I used an arrow operator to get hold of the div with this class, and this line will create a list of all the elements that has the same CSS selector as this one. So from that list, we want to get every cards. For now, I am trying to display every card's hotel name. So if we inspect it, you can take a look here. This div, which is also inside an S3, has a data test ID attribute with the value title. So that's what I use here as a CSS selector. Inside S3, we have a div and data test ID attribute equals title, and the get function gives us the all the uh, all the text inside this element. So one more thing, for the sake of testing purposes, I have just commented the scroll to bottom function because we don't need to scroll to the bottom to check if this section is working or not. So let me just try to run the spider. Okay, well, we need to print it first. Let's try to run it again. Alright, so as you can see, we have the list of all the hotel names that were listed on the first page here. Yeah. So that means our code is correct. So we can try to get hold of all the other details. So alright guys, so now that we have all the required details for the listed properties, including name, remark, price, link, reviews, and ratings, let's give it a test run and will I'll show you how the output looks in the terminal. So let's give it a scrapy crawl command and let it run. Right. So this looks a bit cluttered. So let's get some print statements. and run the Scrapy crawl again. And there we have the output. So you can see that we are returned with the name and remark, price, link to the property, reviews, and rating. So if you notice, the price here has some HTML encoding between the price symbol and the actual price. So we can deal with it in the next section. And let's take a look how to get hold of all these details. So for the if you want to get hold of any attribute, so for example, if you want to get hold of the link, we don't want the anchor element itself. We want the anchor elements href attributes. So for that, we can use colon colon attr function inside the semicolons itself, and we can specify the attribute that we want to uh, extract. And other than that, uh, there's also a little different method, and some people prefer to use this method, or some people just prefer to use a similar function like get that comes with Scrapy itself, that is attrib, and we specify what attribute we want to scrape. In this case, we want the href, and we can just remove this code from here, and this will work the same. So you can use any of these, and that's it. That's how you scrape the details from any website. And in the next section, we'll take a look on how to format these output results using the items .py file, and how to create items, what is the use of items, and then we will use pipelines to format the output details like the price. And if you take a look on these websites, if you scroll a little more, you will notice that some of the hotels does not even have this particular area in their cards. So we're gonna take a look on how to deal with this. All right. So that's it for this section. Welcome back, guys. So in this part of the video, we are going to see how to create and yield all these details as a single item. And for that, we are going to use the items.py file here. So let's get to it. Okay, so here you can see that we have a class booking item already created, and if you want, you can use this class, or if you want, you can create your custom class. For this project, I am going to use just this class. So to create an item, all we need to do is just define the fields that we need in the item. So for example, one of the fields that we need is so for example one of the fields that we need is meme. So we define the name in this class as scrapy.field, and similarly we need to define all the other fields in this class. So let's just do that. Alright, so after this, we just need to import this class into the script booking spider file. So for that, we can use from booking dot items import booking item class, and instead of yielding it direct and instead of yielding it directly, we need to create an item from this class equals to booking item, and after this we can specify all these uh, details as the properties of, and people may ask why do we need to create and yield all these details as an item. So the benefit of using an item class is that if you create a typo here, you will get an error notification in your console. But if you are going to yield it directly, you won't get any error. So it will be very difficult to find where your code went wrong. And suppose you want to put all these details into a database, all the details that you are going to load in that database will be all wrong, and you might need to start again, right? So this is one of the benefits of using an item. And so since we are done with it, let's try to run and see how are we getting the results. All right, okay, we are getting an error. Next step. So when I try to run this spider, you can see that I got an error saying booking item does not support field ratings. So there was a typo here, and that is the beauty of using an item object, because if you are going to yield it directly, you won't be able to catch that error, and it will be loaded to your database if you're trying to do that, or if you want to try, store it in a some other format, there that file might need to be generated again. So this is the beauty of using items class, and there you get to see it in action. So let's move on. So in this pipeline file, you can see that we have a booking pipeline class created, and you can use this class, or if you want you can create multiple classes similar to this, and we can use these classes to process the data after the scraping part, like we are going to do in this section, or if you want you can use these pipelines for other tasks like storing the data uh, in an external database. So we can say that all the data related work, data processing work is done in these pipeline sections. So in this video, we are just going to use pipelines for the formatting our data, and we are not going to upload it on some database. If you want that tutorial, you can comment down the video, and let's get right into it. So first we need to create an item adapter from this class item adapter that is pre-uploaded here. So let's make it item, and it should be able to interact with the item that we are processing it. So we need to pass this item, right? And we can get hold of all the fields in this item using the adapter dot field names, and we can store it in a variable, let's say, yep. And depending on the fields we can process the items. So let's say for field in, so we can get a hold of a field like this. So let's say we want to work with our price field here. So let's enter the price, and sorry, that's a double equals. And in this field, we can get a hold of the value again using the get function. So something like this, adapter dot get, and the name of the field that is. Since we are using an for and if statements here, if we input field keyword here, we are in its place entering the price. So we are storing the value of price field of this item in the value, and we can rewrite the value of and we can rewrite the value again, adapter field equals value dot. All that we want to do in this field is just replace this slash xa. So replace uh, the slash xa with a simple comment with a simple space. And similarly, if you take a look here in the rating section, we can see that we have the ratings as scored 7.6, or here scored 7.2. So we don't need the scored word here. So we can just repeat this process for field equals rating. So what I did here is I get a hold of this ratings field here and reassign its value by splitting it into two pieces and getting hold of the uh, p part with index equals 1. And similarly, we can deal with this reviews, and we can do one more thing here, which is if there are 0 reviews for some hotel, we will get a null value here. So what we can do is, instead of entering a null value here, we will just assign 0 to it, right? So for that, what we can do is, so that's how we deal with it. If you want, we can do the similar thing for the ratings part here. So let's just do it. So let's try to run it now. And first of all, we should uncomment this self.scroll that we commented earlier. So before running it, we also need to enable this pipeline here. So for that, we go to our settings.py and find the commented line saying with the item pipelines extension item pipelines here, and we can just uncomment it. Yep, and this should enable our pipeline. And if you want, we can save the output into a JSON file for the testing purposes. So for that, we can just use the Scrapy crawl command again, and after giving the name of the spider, we can raise a flag with -o and name the file as, where I will just name it output.json, and let's give it a run and see if it uh, alright. So when I tried to run the spider, it crashed with an error saying Unicode escape codec can't decode bytes. So what happened here is that we are trying to operate on this string, which is actually a Unicode string. So to work on it, or to operate on it, we need to convert it into a raw string. So to do that, we just need to place a small r in front of this string, and this gets converted into a raw string, and this should not uh, result into any problem. One thing more that we need to keep in mind is that converting all after performing all these changes, we also need to return this item. So return item when all these changes are performed. So let's try to run this spider, and if you want to save it into a JSON or a CSV file, we can do it directly from this command here by raising an capital O flag if you want to rewrite the file for every run, or you can use the small o if you want to append to the file. So we want to rewrite the file every time, so we are using the capital O, and then we need to specify the name of the file. So here I am just using output.json. So let's try run it. Okay, that's there's a typo here, Scrapy top. So now, so now you can notice that we are at the very bottom of the page, as we no longer see the load more results button, and here we get all the output perfectly formatted. Oh, wait a minute. Why it didn't work was I tried to return the item inside the for loop. So what happened was that it returned the first time, and then it due to the return statement, the for loop break and it didn't work further. So we just need to put it outside, and let's try it again. All right. Now if you notice here, we have the reviews, remarks, and ratings all formatted, but the price section still shows the backslash XA mark. So this is not a problem here, because if you look in the output.json file, you'll notice that this backslash XA marks gets rendered as a blank space. So this is good. That's what we wanted. So I guess that's it. There is whole bookings.com websites, listed locations, all 702 locations actually, because first line is also opening bracket. Alright folks, that wraps up this video on scraping live websites with Selenium and Scrapy, and I hope you find it informative and that you are now equipped to tackle some basic web scraping projects. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone that you might find it useful. And consider subscribing to the channel for more content on data analysis, web scraping, and automation. So speaking of more content, in the next video we will be taking things a step further by scraping Amazon using Scrapy and Playwright. We will not only scrape the product listing, but we will also dive even deeper by opening individual product pages and explore techniques for handling that pesky IP blocking. So stay tuned for that, and don't forget that a link to the Git repository containing the code that we use in this video will be available in the description below. So you can download it, play around, and put your newfounding scraping skills to the test. Thanks again for watching, and happy scraping.